So, Attorney General William Barr is planning to resign right before Christmas, as we told you about. Barr replaced Jeff Sessions as the head of the Justice Department in February of 2019, right in the middle of the Mueller investigation. While the Attorney General has defended President Trump a number of times, he's also had disagreements with him as well. Ben Tracy reports.
Mr. Attorney General, were you fired, sir?
Sources tell CBS News Attorney General Bill Barr was not forced out of his job. His resignation letter is a full-page tribute to President Trump. Barr writes of the president's unprecedented achievements in the face of a partisan onslaught.
And Bill Barr should have stepped up.
But lately, President Trump has been upset that Barr said the Department of Justice found no evidence of widespread fraud in the 2020 election, a direct contradiction of the president's false claims. Barr also followed Justice Department procedure when he did not reveal a federal investigation into Hunter Biden during the campaign, but it clearly angered the president.
Bill Barr, frankly, did the wrong thing. Bill Barr, I know, had an obligation to set the record straight.
Barr's resignation came after the two met at the White House on Monday. In a tweet, President Trump said, "Our relationship has been a very good one," and that Barr has done an outstanding job.
There was no evidence of the Trump campaign collusion with the Russian government's hacking.
Barr has been a loyal defender of the president, famously providing his own summary of the Mueller report in 2019, which created space for the president to claim he had been exonerated, which he was not.
No collusion, no obstruction.
But Barr has also admitted the president's interference in the Department of Justice made his job impossible. In an interview with CBS's Jan Crawford, Barr did not seem concerned about his reputation.
I'm at the end of my career. But
it's a reputation that you've worked your whole life on, though.
Yeah, but everyone dies, and I'm not, I don't believe in the Homeric idea that, immortality comes by, having odes sung about you over the centuries.
All right, so Ben joins us now to talk a little bit more about this. Ben, so, the president's tweet about the Attorney General was quite flattering. His resignation letter was also very flattering, and he even sort of goes on to say within it that the Justice Department is going to continue to pursue, allegations of voter fraud. Do we know what that's all about when he says that? And also, do we know whether or not the White House had a hand in writing the letter? Because it was particularly flattering. And we know that the two had a very contentious meeting after Barr clearly said that the Justice Department thus far has not uncovered any evidence of widespread fraud in the election.
Yeah, this is a very strange resignation letter, mainly because it does not at all mention the men and women of the Justice Department, which is something that you would normally mention if you're the outgoing Attorney General or the good work they've done there. This reads much more like a fan letter to President Trump. So interesting from that regard. In terms of the election fraud, this has been a strange dance that the Attorney General has tried to do post-election. After the election happened, the Attorney General sent this letter out to all the federal prosecutors across the country and basically said, you should go look for evidence of fraud, and if you find it, you should prosecute it. The Attorney General then, a couple of weeks ago, admitted in an interview that, in fact, they had found no evidence of widespread fraud that would overturn the election. That's the same conclusion that court after court after court has come to as the Trump campaign has made these claims across the country. So that put the Attorney General crosswise with the president, who has maintained that there is this fraud out there. What the Attorney General is saying now in his resignation letter is, we'll keep looking. But as we know, they've been looking now for more than a month, and they just haven't come up with anything.
So, as usual, the president's timing for these sort of things always very interesting. He announced Barr was leaving shortly after the Electoral College sealed the election win for Joe Biden. More Republican lawmakers are now acknowledging that the president-elect is Biden, that he will be the next president. I'm wondering if you're hearing about officials maybe within the White House. Are we seeing the same, or whether publicly or behind the scenes? Are they, accepting the fact that this administration is coming to an end and a new one will begin on January 20th?
You're certainly not seeing it publicly yet. You haven't seen White House officials come out and say President Trump lost this election and President-elect Joe Biden is indeed the president-elect. In fact, the press secretary, Kayleigh McEnany, continues to go on television basically parroting the same claims that President Trump is making on his Twitter feed. But I can tell you behind the scenes here, it's a very different thing. We do know that Chief of Staff Mark Meadows has sent out emails to the staff here at the White House reminding them to cooperate with the transition that is well underway. And in all the agencies of the federal government, that transition is happening. So despite what the president is saying publicly, despite some of the public denials of the actual outcome of this election, behind the scenes, things are moving along. And you also have White House staffers who are starting to look for jobs and plot what the future holds for them, because they do know that despite what the president is saying, in 36 days, their passes here for the White House compound will no longer work, and they will have to find somewhere else to be employed.
So speaking of what the president is saying, he announced a handful of new White House nominations and appointments that he intends to make, including a governor of the U.S. Postal Service. What is going on? Why is he continuing to make these moves? Is this an attempt to perhaps leave some of his own people behind? Is the expectation that these appointments will stick around even after Biden is sworn in?
This one likely boils down to the president is doing this simply because he can. This is a way to reward some of his supporters. This is a way to put people in certain positions. But keep in mind, these are positions, because they are presidential appointments, that simply can be undone on day one by Joe Biden once he has the same power that President Trump now has. Now, whether or not on day one this becomes the priority to go remove people who are a governor of the post office, that remains to be seen. But the president has been doing this at a pretty good clip in the last couple of days. He's installed a lot of people over at the Pentagon on advisory boards, people like Corey Lewandowski, who's been one of his campaign strategists, and also former House Speaker Newt Gingrich. So he's putting some high-profile names in these jobs, but those people would obviously be targets of the Biden administration as well. It's hard to imagine that an incoming Biden administration is going to leave somebody like Newt Gingrich in a spot over advising the Pentagon.
Yeah, they may not want to break the lease on their apartments or wherever they're coming from and moving to. Ben, I have so many more questions for you. Hopefully we get a chance later on in the day to talk to you about what is going to happen with the Justice Department between now and January 20th. But for now, thank you so much.
Thanks.